lot of people ask me what I think about mental training and mental focus, and at what age you should start implementing mental training. When I was at Penn State as a shot putter, we had a guy named Dr. Eukelson. He worked with guys like Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter, Larry Johnson, like really elite football players, and he worked with a lot of guys from the track team and a lot of guys from the swimming team. And I remember him saying that mental training is something that elite athletes can really take advantage of. So guys that are at that level, when they get to college or when they get to the professional level. But a lot of people almost write it off because they might have tried it when they were younger and it didn't work for them. And the big thing he had said is the reason why that is that kids, you get a 14, 15-year-old kid, they don't comprehend the mental aspect of training and of competing and stuff like that. So what I always say to people is that weight training and weightlifting is a really good way to learn your own mental strength. Because what I think happens is kids have to train themselves mentally in the beginning. It's hard for an outside person to get into their head when these kids they're untrained. They're barely even like tapping the surface of what's going on in their mind and stuff like that. But as they develop, different athletes might mature faster or slower, and some athletes will start to play mind games with themselves and start to do a really good job themselves. And then as they become greater and greater along the athletic spectrum, they can use a guy like Dr. Eukelson to their advantage when they get into the Olympics or the NFL or whatever. But so the reason why this came up, I had a few people ask me, but I had a guy whose son, I want to take a different route. My son's in 9th grade. I'm going to have him do mental training. Well, here's the issue, is that your kid doesn't even know how to really push themselves at that point. A lot of 9th graders haven't matured because they're untrained, and they need to learn themselves what's going on in their brain. So I don't really value going to see someone like Dr. Uke when you haven't even developed your own mental aspect yet. And I think a lot of that is intrinsic. You can't force someone upon mental training when they haven't matured. It's a really learned aspect. And but what I will say that's impressive is that as you get to the elite level, you can really start to see the big difference. Myself, using my own experience, I went to the 2012 or 2013 U.S. Indoor Championships, and I remember Kurt Roberts screaming after a big throw, after one of his friends, Derek Vickers, threw a big foul, screaming, "Now it's time to play, now it's time to play." And that's the thing, is that those guys have a different mental outlook. They have a whole nother level of they're just going to go out, they're going to crush it, they're not going to let anybody else bug them, they're not going to let anyone else get in their way. And someone like Kurt Roberts he's a shot putter, he might not have ever even been to mental training sessions, but he worked with elite athletes, he trained with elite athletes, and he developed his own mental aspect. And what's funny is in that competition, he was beating Ryan Whiting the whole time. Ryan Whiting's cool, calm, collected. On his last two throws, he takes the lead from Roberts and wins the whole competition. And that's another aside, is Whiting's one of those guys that I'd be surprised if he went to mental training coach, but he's developed that over time, and he had that from the get-go. I'm talking to his coach, his high school coach. He's always been that way, and it's so that's the thing, is it's like, do you have to go see someone who specializes in it? I don't think you do, but I think it does help, but it's not going to help until you're at that sub-elite level and you know what's going on in your head, and you know what you're struggling with. How can you go to someone and tell them what's going on when you don't even know what you're struggling with? So, and then taking that into sports like weightlifting and throwing, I think it's awesome when you look at, I've trained alongside Justin Rhodey. I've trained alongside Dylan Armstrong, Olympians, like Olympic medalists. But the one thing that differs with those guys compared to someone who's a sub-elite thrower like myself, and this doesn't just go for throwing, it goes for wrestling, everything. They comprehend that every single rep counts for something. The goal might be a bit different. So, one day they might realize they don't feel that good. They're just going to focus on certain parts of their technique and hone that area in. And then some days they're focusing on, okay, I feel good, I want to up the intensity, and I'm going to see if I can hit it on these 4 or 5 throws just like I would in a meet. And training alongside Justin, he really, every single throw matters, and that's where you have to be focused mentally. It's every day when you come to the gym, when you go to the shot circle, when you go to the wrestling room, when you go to the weight room, everything. When you go to the football field, everything. Swimming pool, every day matters, and you've got to show up on time. You got to show up ready to train, focused, and recognize that that's what matters on a regular occasion. And that if you have a bad throw or if you have a bad lift, it's not the end of the world. You learn from that specific throw or failure in the weights or whatever, and you try and fix it. And that's what the best guys in the world know, is that they might have a frustrating day training-wise, but they know that that day is going to help them improve. And that's where I think you can't necessarily teach a young kid that. It's they've got to learn that over time. And they also have to learn that showing up on time, getting ready, and all that stuff factors. But the big thing is that every rep counts, and that will develop confidence and develop the mental aspect of the sport that will help them hopefully dominate their sport and do well and accomplish the goals that they want to do well. So that's just something to do with mental training. I also think mental training is influenced heavily by a child's upbringing and what their family values are and stuff like that. But that's for another video. So if you have any questions, send me some emails, send me whatever you want, and I'll try and answer them. I got a lot of time on my hands right now. I'm driving to Colorado Springs, so hit me up. My email, Dane@garagestrength.com, or message me on Twitter. Thanks a lot.